Hi guys, welcome to season 2 of SJ Masterclass. This season, we are focusing on A Court of Mist and Fury. I'm Kat, one of your hosts. This week, we're going to be reading chapters 1 through 4 of ACOMAF. Rev, welcome back to season 2. How was your break?
My break was so good. I got caught up on the rest of life that I had neglected for the past multiple weeks since we were doing the podcast every 1 week. I'm really looking forward to Season 2, A Court of Mist and Fury. Loving this book, always have, and loving that we're doing once every 2 weeks so we can bring a good podcast, bring quality, and also keep quality of our lives. How about you? How did you enjoy your break?
The same. I got back into some of my other hobbies. I've kind of just enjoyed having a couple of weeks to read things that weren't SJM and just getting my life back to being organized. I'm really happy that we're moving to 2 weeks, and we did some wine tasting. We did some parties. It was great. So speaking of this being a great book, in your reading of, let's just view A Court of Thorns and Roses series as a trilogy, where do you think Mist and Fury falls in your 1, 2, 3 favorite?
A Court of Mist and Fury is my favorite book of the entire ACOTAR universe. It is my favorite. I think it feels like it has the most
really
exciting romance, and it has a lot of action. Book 3 feels very, sometimes when guys like to watch these movies that are very like war based and fighting based, I feel like Wings of Ruin is like that.
Mm-hmm. It's very action.
ACOMAF is very romance, and I love it. It is just my favorite book. It is falling into romance. I love it.
I think when you view, I mean, no one can argue these books are romanticy. This book is the romance arc between Feyre and Rhysand, and it is just, we get to see these two people kind of stumble towards love, whether they're fated mates or not. We get to see them stumble towards one another.
In all of the 15 or 16 of SJM, how do you rank A Court of Mist and Fury?
I think it's definitely one of my top 3. I think Kingdom of Ash is hands down my favorite.
We can't get into that until the time.
Nope, we can't get into that. That's why I will just leave it there. But it is definitely the most romantic book I think SJM has ever written.
What's your third?
I don't know. Ask me at the end of the podcast. I will say I really...
Like years from now?
Right. Yeah. Ask me in 10 years.
Okay.
I will say I really loved Crescent City 1. I think it is a really great standalone. It is a really great romance and kind of that film noir thriller romance.
With like all the dark background and the bright lights of the city. It's very film noir.
It's a very Sin City vibe of like darks and grays and like rain and the city.
Red.
Yes. So going back to Mist and Fury, what are the things that like stick out to you from this book? Are there any scenes? Are there any moments of this book that you just like, oh, I can't wait till we get there. This scene is why I love it.
I think it's not even because of reading it. I think it's because of a friend I had that bought a set of paints and sent me a picture and was like, hey, I'm reading this book, and did a little like click of like the picture. Also, I don't have Kat's number. Can you send it to Kat? And I was like, I sure can send it to Kat. And he's like, will she know what it means? And I was like, yeah, she'll know what it means.
She did.
She gets it. That stands out for me because it's such a big moment that is collective for us as a group of people who are reading the same book and find some of the same stuff similar. What is it? Chapter 55, is that
54,
right?
55, yeah.
I think it's 55. And that stands out to me because it's a moment that no matter who reads this book series, after we read it years ago and people have come up to us again and again and they're like, this chapter 55 though.
Have you read it?
Have you read it? And I'm like, yeah, we have. And that to me stands out as such a standalone moment in this series that everyone who reads it, it's such a good connection moment between a group of readers between all of us as SJM fans. I don't know. What stands out to you in this book in particular, and why?
It's so interesting because, like, yes, chapter 55, but that is not on my list of memorable things for this book because I think it's such a significant point. It's not one of those like, oh, that part and that part. But like, there is a scene in the next book that rewired my brain. We'll get there. There is a scene in this book where Rhys is on his knees in front of Feyre, and they have this interaction.
Are you sure that's not chapter 55? JK, go ahead.
It could be. But like, and there's a scene where he gets this twinkle in his eyes at being on his knees in front of her after he made Tamlin and Lucien get on their knees in front of him. Like, it's this huge power play. And I remember reading that chapter and just being like, oh, yep, this girl knows what she's doing. But also when Mor walks in and saves Feyre, a woman saving a woman because the man cannot cross that line. It is also meeting Tarquin. And the quote that sticks with me is, you would be easy to love. Like, it's all of this, but I think all of these are aspects of the romance of this book. Like, this book is beautiful. I love it. Go for your pin.
Another personal favorite is, for me personally, being like the artsy knitter person based in so much of my world has to do with color, is learning about the city and the art district and how much color is there and like what it looks like at night.
Yes.
I can just envision it in my head and I see it. And no matter what book it's described in, because it's described in other books, as we know, I know it and I hear it. I hear the description and I see it. And it's a place
it is real.
I want to live next to go and visit like once a week and go there.
I think it's also like, when we are described the townhome that Rhys lives in, it's not a palace. It's not this huge manor estate. It is just a townhome part of the city. But I remember when we first meet Cassian and Azriel, and they're outside of the door knocking on it. They're like, we want to meet her. Let's meet this girl. Come on, who is she? And it's like his brothers, we get to meet them. We meet the inner circle. This is the book that solidified my love of A Court of Thorns and Roses.
And meeting Mor, and Mor is just like a goddess. Mor is more than anyone. And also, does anyone else just want to be Amryn with all of her beautiful little things and trinkets
this
and
HBIC?
Ah, I want it.
I can't wait to get further into this book.
We're going to meet all of our best friends so soon. We're only chapters away. It's so good.
I'm excited. And I think with that, let's do a summary. We are however many minutes in. We haven't even like deep dived in. Okay.
We haven't even chapter summarized yet.
Okay. So chapters 1 through 4, we start with the prologue, which we did not do in the first book. So something different to talk about. We have Feyre's nightmare reliving the third trial from Amarantha in the last book, but instead of the female Fey, it is her own face. Then we move into House of Beasts, Part 1. Feyre's dealing with the trauma from the last trial even more. We see a different Feyre. She's almost broken. She's traumatized. And we start seeing hints as to why this relationship between her and Tamlin is not going to succeed in the long run. We see Feyre trying to leave the Spring Court manor boundaries. Tamlin doesn't let her because Amarantha's beasts are still around. The bad guys are still around. And we meet Ianthe. We meet the priestess. And we start having wedding plans for Tamlin and Feyre's wedding. Tamlin and Feyre have sex. There's another conversation about the High Lady / Lady of the X Court. Insert your season / time of day. Feyre does get to go into the town with Lucien, and none of them will allow her to help them because she's their savior. We learn about something called the tithe, which is going to be really important later on in the book. Lucien explains Tamlin's reactions and feelings and kind of where Tamlin's head is at. We find out what happened to the lesser Fae during their time under the mountain. And chapter 4 wraps up with kind of like this weird bachelor party / party for the court where they are all celebrating right before the day before the wedding. It is the wedding. Feyre starts having a panic attack, starts wishing something would stop her, wishing someone would see that she didn't want to do it. And lo and behold, the chapter ends with Rhysand, "Hello, Feyre, darling," he purred.
I love it.
I love this book.
Okay, so I'm going to jump into the details. There are so many things that I want to talk about this. And I know in the last book, I really focused in on like a lot of little things. But in this big chapter chunk, I have a lot of big meta things. A lot of big things that have to do with characters and where we are at now versus where we were and where we're going. We do have the benefit of reading the book already, so we kind of know where we're going. So here's the first one. It's been 3 months. She's trying to adjust to an immortal body. She's having bad dreams. She's vomiting in the night. She's letting Ianthe make all the decisions for her regarding the wedding. In chapter 2, Tamlin isn't letting her leave or do anything productive, and she just has to sit with her thoughts of the Fae that she killed and keeps ruminating on that. Also, page 35, she says, "A fitting end would have been me in a grave burning in hell." The first thing I want to talk about is our main character, Feyre, and where she's at right now, and like how it appears to me that no one else sees, or if they do see, they don't acknowledge how deep in despair she's in. And she's made it so obvious. Like there are so many parts in chapter 1 where she's just like hugging the toilet and she's saying things about like, he either didn't acknowledge or didn't hear that I was getting sick. He'd shaken off my touch. Like, what's going on there?
Are we to believe that this high fae is not waking up when the person in the bed next to them is waking up and running to the bathroom? The bed is going to shake. The sounds are going to wake him up. And she even thinks that at one point, I thought I heard his breath hitch, which meant he was awake, but I didn't want to ask.
Why doesn't she want to ask? Like, that's just one little point.
And that's why I said in my summary, we're getting hints why this relationship is not going to work. Because there is not honesty here. He is either aware and he doesn't care, or he is ignorant to the trauma that she's dealing with. But either way, this is not going to be a long-term relationship because there is too much hanging between them. And as far as she is concerned, she is changing herself. You know, she keeps saying, Ianthe says I need to do this, so I'm going to do this. Tamlin says I can't go here, so I'm getting like, it's almost this emotional beating where you're like, oh, yeah. At one point, she thinks to herself, it was just too much effort to disagree. These are the very clear signs of depression.
It's more of like, I'm uncomfortable or don't know how to deal with the change that has happened in my life, more so than just depression. I think depression is a second thing, and I don't mean it's secondary, but there's like more than one thing going on, and no one is addressing it. Ianthe is just like, sure, I'll do everything for you, and like that's a whole other question, but like no one is doing anything about it.
So I have a few thoughts if we're just kind of focusing right now on Feyre. The first thing is she's having these nightmares. She is kind of pulling back in the scene when Tamlin is like, nope, you can't come here because this and this and this. And Lucien shakes his head no, and she kind of pulls back and says, no, you're right. I'll go back inside. When Ianthe says, oh, you need to do this and this and this. And she's like, sure, I can't even bother. But it's also, she doesn't celebrate her birthday. This sense of identity for Feyre is getting chipped away page by page in these first 4 chapters. It's on page 10. She doesn't celebrate her birthday because there's too much going on. But is this also, she's high fae now. Like, her full body has changed. Her whole person has changed. I think in conjunction with this, when they are talking about her, those first few months of her, like, learning how to get used to her body and how she broke 3 doors in the first week or something. And Alice got really angry at her because she broke an 800-year-old vase. Excuse me, are you telling me Tamlin in all of his rages didn't do the exact same? Is she so much stronger than Tamlin that she's breaking all these things? Or is it just putting the blame on this second? Right.
She might actually be stronger than Tamlin.
It is a legitimate question. Yes, it could. I think she is. But also, are they putting the blame on her where they're like, oh, Feyre, you broke another door. Who is she that she can break these doors? Tamlin and Lucien didn't. For God's sakes, Amarantha's whole group came in and destroyed everything. Go for your pen.
There's also the part on page 9, just the very first page of chapter 2, where she says something like, I want to go to this place. And Tamlin's like, no. And she's like, no, I really want to go. And Tamlin's like, no. And then Lucien looks at her and gives her this look that says, don't push him. Don't do it. Like, even Lucien, who we know gets to this amazing place that he gets to, it is your Lucien read.
It is.
So I'm going to reference it. This is going to lead into a next question. But even he looks at her and is like, don't push him. Like, why is everyone protecting Tamlin? Is it that he's so strong that he's going to break everything? Well, guess what? Feyre's so strong, she's breaking everything too. Why are we protecting Tamlin? I mean, also Tamlin did this for like 50 years and Feyre's only been part of it for like a few months. But like, Feyre's also completely changed. Like, why is Lucien protecting Tamlin?
Well, so this is a question I have for this whole chapter chunk. I would say this is one of my book club questions. Is there a relationship that can exist between Tamlin and Feyre that does not include Lucien? Lucien is always the one kind of soft coding thing. He's the one who's like, don't get him angry. Oh
my God. Also, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the Starlight Pond, they couldn't even have the Starlight Pond without Lucien.
All of the key points of their relationship are Lucien bound. In chapter 3 of this chapter chunk, Lucien is the one who takes her to the town, not the High Lord, not Tamlin, but he's also the one who says he has reasons for what he's doing. You have to bend to his rules. He kind of like softens the blow of this relationship. Without Lucien, would there be one? I don't think there would be.
There's also like this Lucien on the regular, it seems unknowingly, like he's just doing it on instinct, that he does the same thing that Tamlin does. And he always speaks to Feyre about becoming Tamlin's wife. He doesn't talk about Feyre becoming the new Fae person that she is. Mm-hmm. Everything is just becoming Tamlin's wife. That's all that anyone recognizes or acknowledges or gives her instruction about, is about her being Tamlin's wife. There's nothing that has to do with her changes. And also it seems like I'm going to disagree with you, because when she goes to the town, they call her the curse breaker. She is labeled curse breaker in the town. When Ianthe is introducing her to Braun and Hart, it is, here's Feyre, savior of Prythian. Her labels aren't always to do with Tamlin. And those, you know what that kind of reminds me of? You know when Aelin, by the time the end of the book comes, that Aelin has like 14 different names.
Yes, agreed. SJM loves a title. Witch killer, curse breaker, angel killer. We talked about this last season. So this brings me into what I want to talk about, a quote between Lucien and Feyre. It's on page 27. I think it's on their way into the town. And she says, he didn't have any trouble letting me hunt and wander on my own when I was a mere human, when the borders were less safe. And he says, he didn't care for you the way he does now. And after what happened under the mountain, ... The words clanged in my head along my two tense muscles. What does that mean? What happened under the mountain that made Tamlin's feelings for her change? Is it that she died? Is it that she broke the curse? Because their relationship does not progress any under the mountain.
Right. If I had to read into that, I would say it had something to do with the lack of emotion from Tamlin. Because remember, under the mountain, he was nothing. He had no emotion to give. And maybe it's like he didn't care for you the way he does now. As in, did that lack of emotion mean he didn't really care for her? And now he does because she saved everyone? Or does it mean that he always did care for her and he had to dampen everything down? And now that Amarantha's no longer a power, he can just explode his emotion on her. Now he gets to display them on full. And so he's going to protect you to the most that he can.
But what's he doing?
By putting guards everywhere that we have seen that he does. He's putting guards everywhere. And the fact that he can now say, nobody gets to touch her. She's under my control. Spring Court is going to be guarded insanely. And his experience of being helpless under the mountain makes him feel like he needs to take even more over control now of everything that is happening.
I mean, it just, in my reading of it for these 4 chapters and having read the last book, this is not romance. There is not a romantic tone to this. It is, he didn't care for you the way he does now. It's not love. It's, he didn't care for you. I care for my people. I care for my guards. You would hope I love my partner. Go for your pen.
Like an inch and a half above that, on page 27, she says, and I didn't realize I'd become a prisoner. So something about the way that Lucien is responding to that is referring to, like, yes, you feel like a prisoner now, even though you felt like a prisoner then, but he's doing this for this reason now. And you're trying to justify, well, he just cares for you. Like, the reason the author puts that in is leading into this next paragraph.
But there's so many things about this interaction between Lucien and Feyre, because once again, Lucien is having to explain the rules of the Spring Court, the rules of the Fey land, to this girl who was human and is now Fey. Why is the High Lord not explaining it to her? Why is it his job to say, no, he gives an order, I follow it. If he says to jump, I say how high. Why is it up to Lucien to explain what the tithe is? The tithe that becomes such a significant thing for Feyre and becomes a point of contention between Tamlin and Feyre. Do you think, like, if Tamlin had explained it, would he have been able to say, no, this is why we're doing the things we are, doing the things we're doing? But it's Lucien who is explaining all these things. They might, quote unquote, love each other. We never hear her say it. I don't think she says, I love you in these chapters. She says, I murmured it back. This relationship, 40 pages in, 4 chapters in, is doomed before they have the chance to say, I do.
Well, I have 2 separate questions that kind of relate to this, but I think it could, like, spread a little light about this. And this is, why is Tamlin not recognizing or responding to her obvious despair? He should be the one responding to the way that she's feeling, her reactions of everything of becoming a Fae and everything that happened with her having to kill Fae, but he doesn't. And at one point there's like something that said it had become our unspoken agreement to not let Amarantha win by acknowledging that she still tormented us. So, like, when Tamlin is not acknowledging these things, I think he's just not being very mature. Maybe he's thinking, well, I've been through some things myself. Is he just like, we all have to get over it? it is proven more true where he's just presenting her at all of these engagement parties, right? And she says on page 41, Tamlin is unaware of how dark and broken I am inside.
Yes.
And like, even though we hear her say, well, I'll never be a high lady. And that is like a reference. This is foreshadowing to something way in the future. What we can focus on is he doesn't see her despair. He just focuses on like, come on, get with it. You're just going to be my wife. This is how my wife. No, you're not going to be a high lady. You're going to be like the autumn lady. I think that kind of plays into not necessarily like an answer, but like maybe more support for your question that you were just asking of like, what is the mindset?
So you brought up two things, and I have kind of like a follow-up question to this. The first thing is, we are able to look at this because we know how the series goes, and we've already read this book a number of times. But when we see this Tamlin post Under the Mountain versus Rhysand when they're in the Court of Nightmares, and there's a moment where Rhysand says to her, it's okay, it's your body's natural response to what's happening. It's in that moment Rhysand is saying, I understand the trauma. I understand your frustration. I understand what's happening. Your body is responding to what is happening around us and what I'm doing to you. I have to act this way. Tamlin never says, I see you. There are parts where Rhys and Feyre are dealing with their trauma together. When Rhys is picking off the dirt from his suits, he's not picking off dirt. He's always unclean because of the things he had to do under the mountain, right? Like, Tamlin never really does respond to these things. That is my first point. My second point is when you were talking about, yes, they're talking, Tamlin's like, yeah, you'll never be high lady. There's no such thing as a high lady. And she thinks on page 33, I was grateful that I'd never be a high lady, never be Tamlin's equal in responsibility and power. A small, forgotten part of me roared and screamed at that, but ... There is a part of her that does not want to be squashed and is still fighting. But I feel like if she had not made that deal last book and had an escape with Rhys, she would have died. A part of her would have been broken beyond reconciliation. Rhys is the one who helps kind of let her heal. And she even thinks at one point, like, I'm never going to fix myself. There's nothing that can fix me. Well, by the end of this book, she is a different character than she was when she started. But my question, so my 2 points being comparing Tamlin and Rhys and the High Lady, what is the character arc of Tamlin? How is he any different than what he was in book 1? He is such a two-dimensional character to me. I mean, is he any different than pre-Under the Mountain?
No, he is not. He is actively utilizing Ianthe to help Feyre in a way that he sees he cannot help Feyre.
Is it helping Feyre or is it babysitting Feyre?
Answering from Tamlin's point of view, it's all the same.
Yes,
he doesn't see her as a person.
She is something that needs to be tended to. I don't think he considers her a person. She is his belonging that needs to be tended to.
We already talked about this in book 1, that she is a possession. And now that she is Bede Amarantha, she's even a more precious possession, right? So Ianthe is helping control the situation. He doesn't ever deal with her emotions, but he's not happy to accept the negatives with her, but he's very happy to accept the positives of her on his arm walking down the aisle, right? So this is very much a trophy.
Yes.
That just brings in a whole other conversation about Ianthe.
Before we get into her, because I have a whole page about notes on her, is there anything else from Feyre's perspective that you wanted to bring up?
This is something very off topic, but it is Feyre's perspective. Page 30 to 31 in our book. The camps had held the Fae that Feyre doesn't recognize from Under the Mountain. She's like, I don't remember you
The lesser
from
Fae.
Under the Mountain, the lesser Fae. They were kept in camps. Does that sound familiar to you? Sounds like the places where Selena/Aelin was kept. I have written so many subtleties of how these worlds are the same. History repeats itself if you don't pay attention. We know, reading other books, Selena/Aelin was in the salt mines. And how does that parallel real life right now, where we are like,
Right.
I hate to go here because this is
How do you
a
not?
podcast about fiction and it is about books and it's not supposed to be about real life, but like, dude, is the United States/Donald Trump not going full on Adolf Hitler by slowly edging in things? It's just really, really subtle changes until you get to the point where you have someone make a quote that says, the reason bad things happen is because good people did nothing to stop it. And I feel like this was written so many years ago. SJM could never have any realization that this would be so relevant so soon after she had written these books. But that's where I'm going with it. That's what I'm saying. Sorry, but not sorry.
Do not apologize. Because when I was reading these books, that was what I was thinking is, God, this sounds like the detention centers that people are being sent to today in 2026. But this book was written in 2016. So this is also like the concentration camps of World War II. This is just cycle after cycle of humanity at its worst, but there's almost a forgiveness because we're talking about it through fiction. We are allowed to have these salt mines, these under the mountain camps where horrible things happen because it's fiction. It didn't happen.
It's fiction. It's not real.
But we know what happened in the concentration camps. And in 10 years, we will find out what is happening, the full extent of what is happening in those detention centers that we're just getting glimpses of right now. So
yeah, I feel like that was a really big thing for me to talk about and be like, I know we're just talking about fiction, but I couldn't not say it.
How could you
It's
not?
too important to me to not say.
And in today's world, in 2026, this is 10 years after this book was written. This was written in 2016.
Yeah.
How do you not make those same comparisons? And how do you not look at what happens to those people before, during, and after and think, I know what is going to happen in our world because I've seen it before.
And all the kids that got separated from their parents that still haven't been reconnected. Like, it is just like Selena. It's so prevalent, and I can't imagine that SJM knew that what she was saying was going to be so true to now, and how blessed she can feel to say, you guys, I've been warning about this. And like, how many other people who are reading the same things that we're reading are going to be like, you're right, this is important. And let's recognize it, call it out, have something done.
Right.
That's very important to me.
I think this is a path we could go down further and further, but I don't think we will get anywhere with it, if I'm being honest.
Right.
So
yeah,
I will.
Time to move on.
Yep. A couple of things I wanted to talk about with Feyre is we've already addressed her trauma, but also her trauma around the color red. Like, she has very specific PTSD and says, like, she can't even look at Lucien at one point because his hair is red, but not as red as Amarantha's. And she tells Ianthe, please don't have red roses. I just can't do it. And Ianthe says, of course not. I would never. There's so many other colors. And then there are red roses at her wedding.
Page 40, rose petals scattered down it and red ones. Mm-hmm. Literally, why do you think that Ianthe does this? Why?
Well,
I have a whole question. It's this big. If this big means anything to you on camera, that I have written down about Ianthe. Why do you think she puts the red ones? What is she doing? What is her intention?
It's a power play.
What is the motive?
I mean, I
Say
think
power play again.
it is. So one of the themes for this chapter chunk for me is power. Lucien towards Tamlin. You know, the fact that he is always going to bend to Tamlin. Ianthe is always looking for it. And even at one point, Feyre says she's just looking to increase her power. She is not working with the other priestesses because she is upping her own power.
This is why she's the only one and all the other 11 don't get to come to the wedding.
And they wanted to. They wanted to come, and Ianthe said no. So my things for Ianthe are the fact that she's a childhood friend of Tamlin. She already has a power over him because of their shared history. She was the heart of her people, ordained by the hand of the goddess to lead them from despair and darkness. This is the only time in this series that we hear Hand of the Goddess. The goddess is big in Throne of Glass, big in Crescent City, but outside in the ACOTAR world, it's always the mother, it's always the cauldron. So who is this goddess that she's the hand of? This was on page 14. She's also known as the voice of the cauldron. She is constantly being referred to as, with all of these powerful images. But at the same time, this is on page 16 to 17, Feyre asks, what kind of power do the priestesses have? And Lucian's like, yeah, they don't really have any power. It all comes from their rituals and things like that. Does Ianthe have any power? I don't think she does.
The power that Ianthe has is not in like a formal goddess sense, but the power that she has in what other people think of her, because I specifically say there are points in time where she provokes, and I'm using that word specifically, or promotes, you could say, but I will use the word provokes, the Fae to tell stories and these specific stories that remind Feyre of how depressed she is. What happened in the Middengard trial, she is doing these things specifically because I think she recognizes how pained Feyre is, and she realizes that Feyre has also latched on to Ianthe to be like, can you just make these decisions for me? I'm so depressed. Ianthe is specifically doing things to manipulate Feyre to get some sort of more power on who she thinks is going to be one of the most powerful Fae. And so she's really happy to have Feyre marry Tamlin because she already has kind of power over Tamlin. And then she will also have this power over Feyre. And so she is just gathering herself power, as further evidenced by not letting any of the other priestesses, not letting any of them in. It's not a goal to steal Tamlin. It's a goal to steal power, because she knows then she will have power over both of them, knowing that Feyre is going to be one of the most powerful people in Prythian.
You're right. It is this power of, I have power over the other 11 priestesses who wanted to come, but I told them no. I think there's a moment when Feyre thinks how Ianthe wants to be with Lucien because he is the son of a high lord and he is the emissary of the Spring Court. So he is a very powerful male. But so
you think Ianthe wants to be with Lucien? Oh, wow.
So that's one of my foreshadowings.
Wow, say more.
So in one of my foreshadowings, there is a point where Ianthe is talking. So on page 19, together the three of us make a formidable unit. This is Ianthe talking about herself.
Oh, I know exactly
Feyre
what you're
and
talking
Tamlin.
about.
And the next one is 4 if you count Lucien. Not that he particularly wants anything to do with me. And then we kind of get this.
I have it highlighted too.
But we kind of get this thing where A match with Lucien would be nearly as beneficial as one with Tamlin, the right hand of the High Lord and another High Lord's son. It is power, power, power. But there's another part where Feyre is thinking she is looking for power. Like, Feyre is not stupid. She recognizes what is happening here. That Ianthe is just trying to, I don't know, protect herself, try and make sure that she's as powerful as she can be. But, you know, in my first readings of this, I don't know that I connected Ianthe and Lucien 3 chapters in of the second book, especially given what happens in book 3. Back to 16 and 17. I'd watched her on the winter solstice for any signs of it, meaning her power, marking the way she positioned herself so that the rising sun filled her uplifted arms. This scene that Feyre is describing is very powerful. This is kind of power in the image of what you are portraying. For Ianthe, who does not appear to have any power, when she raises her arms and the sunlight is in the circle of her hands. Remember in book 3, Feyre makes sure that she nudges her just out of the way and the light hits Feyre instead of Ianthe.
Oh, I don't remember that. I can't wait to read it, though.
It's one of those moments where you're like, oh, you smart cookie. But the other thing I was thinking is, you know, she doesn't have power. But in Silver Flame, when we meet Gwyn, who is also a priestess, Gwyn has powers. She has power over light. When she sings, she glows. What I want to pay attention to and what I want to look into is, what is the power of the priestesses? Is Ianthe maybe not necessarily as powerful as, like, is she not as high up? Or is she a different type of priestess than we eventually meet? I just feel like there's a lot. We are starting the seed of priestesses and villains, I think, in these first few chapters.
I definitely see, like, at one point, I have something highlighted in my notes, like, is it her goal to become the highest priestess? Putting Feyre in these situations where she feels vulnerable and then becoming Feyre's savior puts her in a position of power, trying to steal Lucien. That just puts a whole different spin on the rest of the series.
Well,
what kind of power is Lucien going to have that we didn't see that she saw that she needs to steal Lucien?
My final thing for Ianthe is, did you notice on page 14, she's described as having a blue-gray hood as though she's wearing a cloak?
I did not highlight the cloak, and cloak is my thing.
I know. No. It's not mentioned as a cloak, but it is that she is wearing a blue-gray hood.
Where is
it's on page 14.
The gauzy skirts of my dawn pink gown.
Nope. Beneath her pale blue-gray hood, Ianthe furrowed her brow, the crinkling the tattoo of the various stages of the moon cycles stamped across it. First paragraph.
She scribbled out the name she dashed on one of the seating charts moments before.
Because all of the other cloaks, if I am correct, are always described as being black cloaks, dark cloaks. This is the first light cloak that we've come across.
Yeah, I'm getting out my red pen just to make this mark in the book.
But I was also wondering, because since we're here, we're talking about, talking about her moon tattoo across her forehead. When she's trying to get with Rhysand, which we find out later on in the series, is it because she's a priestess tied to the moon, tied to the night, or is it because he's the most powerful High Lord?
It's 100% because she's power grabbing.
Sure. I agree with that.
I'm just saying it. I
think you're right.
Change.
I think it's a cherry on top that she has moons on her forehead.
Can I say one more thing about...
I'd love it if you did.
This is just like the last thing I have to bring up.
About Ianthe?
No. It's about Feyre.
Oh, yeah.
but I just stumbled on it and I realized I forgot to write it in my note. Page 19. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. That is very specifically from Pride and Prejudice, but the movie. And from what I understand, I've only read the book once. It's only in the 2004, 2005 Keira Knightley version. But also, I don't think that this is an accidental quote.
Sure.
That SJM did. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. If you've ever heard that, you know it is from Keira Knightley's version of Pride and Prejudice. And I could not remember it being from the book. Can't find my version of the book, so it doesn't matter. But like...
And I will say this. I will never be the one to answer this question because I've never read Pride and Prejudice, and I never will. It is a big
I have read it twice in that old English. I'm just wondering, SJM, that's not an accident. Does that happen because she is trying to mimic what could only be this most romantic, high lord, literally and figuratively, Mr. Darcy versus Tamlin version of yes, yes, 1,000 times yes, and somebody like getting to say yes to this person that they think is like the greatest thing, but then also putting it in there so that she can be like, also, you guys, keep in check for the next few books because I'm going to write about how this really turns out. That's not real life.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. I think this is like, we're getting glimpses of what the expectation that this is going to be a romance between Feyre and Tamlin. They're getting married. They're going to be happily ever after. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. The reality is, no, 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 no. 1,000 times no. I think you're right. I think this is the expectation versus the reality of the romance. But also these romantic tropes that are right in there.
Oh, I love it. I love it that she literally, I think that she says it so she can be like, this is what all the happily ever after girls think. And guess what? We're about to F up your world. You're about to do something different. And this is an alternative. It's not that like that other thing isn't true, but it's that you could think that thing is true. And it's not true, your world could get turned upside down. And
sure.
This is what your romantasy could be. I love that she used it. It's one of my favorite quotes in the book. It's one of my favorite quotes in all of SJM because I am such a Jane Austen girl. We all know that. I am such a Jane Austen girl, but I love it. Go ahead.
It's also that your first love is not going to always be your last love. She thinks she's madly in love with Tamlin. Yes, 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 I will marry you. That's not the love of her life. That's not even the like of her life.
And she has no idea yet, Kat.
Yeah, she is. Well, okay. She has no idea. But two things. On pages 6 and 7, after she's having, this is chapter 2, I think. She vomits and she's doing, like, she's in the bathroom. She's having the nightmares. What is the thing that focuses her and grounds her is when she's looking around and she ends up looking at her tattoo. She's focusing on this thing from Rhysand. But also on page 41, and between my skin and bones, something thrummed and pounded, rising and pushing, lashing through my blood. That sounds a lot like the Bond, doesn't it? Fighting the fact that she's marrying someone else.
Kat! Oh my God, it sounds exactly like the Bond. Kat, it sounds exactly like the Bond.
And later on, the thing inside me was roiling now, my body shaking with the building force of it as it hunted for a way out. That sounds like the Bond fighting against this marriage to the quote-unquote love of her life. And then what happens? Rhysand comes and ends the marriage.
I can't wait for us to get into the new chapters because you're so right. Like, it is the Bond fighting, like, this is not what's supposed to happen. And then things happen. And then she goes, well, that's not for this chapter, Chung.
Well, I have a couple more things. The first one is on page 10. of Mist and Fury. My grip tightened on the leather as I tugged the horse to a stop, and the golden ring on my finger, along with the square cut emerald glittering on top of it, flashed in the sun.
Girl, I have it highlighted too. Ah, go
How
ahead.
similar is that to Aelin's ring in Throne of Glass? The thicker
How
ring,
similar is it?
The thicker ring held an elegant cut ruby within the band itself, while the smaller one bore a sparkling rectangular emerald mounted atop, the stone as large as her fingertip. So Rowan's ring is the one that has the ruby. Aelin's ring has the emerald. Now, it is rectangle versus square, but is that a similarity? Is that a tie? I don't know. Am I Charlie Daying it? Is it, it's spring, it's going to be an emerald, but it's interesting. I'll just put it out there.
I will Charlie D it with you 100% because I have it highlighted and underlined, square cut, emerald glittering atop it. It literally, even the way she phrases it, atop it.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be the same ring. It's got to be.
I think something else we should pay attention to for these 3 books, and we've already been doing it, is the way that Feyre pays attention to color and painting and when she's going into that artistic side of her, because she falls out of it in A Court of Thorns and Roses. And when she's under the mountain, there's a point where she thinks, like, that part of me that was long dead sparked to life when I was seeing all of the art on the wall. On page 13, I'd stopped cataloging color and feeling and texture, stopped noticing it. I could barely look at the paintings hanging inside the manor. This is a sign of her depression, but it's also a part of her.
She's giving up.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I feel like
she's
this
being
is
broken.
part of her. Yes, her breaking, her giving up. It's a part of her saying, I've just stopped everything. I can't
what's
anymore.
The point? Mm-hmm.
And like, that just goes to show that like Tamlin and Ianthe, and unfortunately Lucien at this point, he does pick it up, but like no one is helping her. No one is getting her to where she needs to be. No one is being a good friend.
No one
her.
is caring about Feyre.
They're all caring about themselves and what they can get from knowing her or getting part of her power.
Agreed. Page 19. I think this is the first time she refers to Lucien as her friend. Like in the past, she always talks about him, or she'll talk about like him being Tamlin's friend. But on page 19, sometimes I honestly wondered if my friend might rip her throat out for it. But she refers to him as my friend, not Tamlin's friend, not the emissary. I just think that was an interesting point, because I remember in the 3rd book, or maybe it's this book, when he comes and finds her with Asriel, he says, "Aren't we friends?" And she's like, "I thought we were." These little breadcrumbs.
It's where we can see Lucien is going to go.
Yes. And it's also a possession she has. My friend, not Tamlin's friend.
She doesn't hold on to many of those things.
No. She holds on to the inner circle, though. Page 21, we have Tamlin's calluses referred to.
I have it highlighted.
Look, I know us. But it's important because of how significant calluses are in Throne of Glass, and we know that she's been reborn, so, like, are her calluses gone? And we know Elaine doesn't have calluses, but we assume Nesta does. Okay, this is something I thought was really interesting. And again, Charlie Day it with me. On page 38, she has another nightmare about this one's about the second trial. And she's thinking about how she's going to die. And she says, "I might even cry for my mother." She doesn't think about her mother very often. She doesn't have a good relationship with her. But the way it's phrased, "I might even cry for my mother," could you not insert, "I might even cry for the forgotten gods"? Like this idea of calling for her mother as opposed to calling for her father, calling for Tamlin, calling for... why her mother?
I just hope that like someday in the future we learn a lot more about her mother. Like it has to be. There's too much gray area about her mother even up till now, and we are only in the first 5 chapters of book 2.
Right.
Like there's got to be something more that we've got to learn about her, and that's why like when you would go to reread it after reading everything and then reread ACOTAR again, you see her thinking, calling for my mother. And you're like, oh, I didn't even know what that was going to mean then, but I know how much it means now.
But I also, every time I see her refer to her mother or think about her mother, I always think of Throne of Glass with Dorian's father. Nameless is my price. He loses his name. She has lost her name to time here.
Catherine.
She never gets a name. Yet.
She is nameless.
She is nameless. Nameless is my price.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Cat. How did we not lead with this as step 1 in this episode?
You got to work for it.
God, girl. No, that's so like smart though. Do you realize like that connection that's so obvious, but like no one has made yet?
I am sure someone has, but I have not seen it. But I'm sure someone has. It's been 10 years. Okay.
Can't
I've got
get over it.
a couple more things.
Wow.
So on pages 36, 37, when Ianthe is introducing her to Bronn and Hart, and you know, we don't get a lot of characterization of these two guys. They're just kind of like tertiary
Extras.
characters. But they're like, oh, yeah. And they're like, oh, have you heard from the High Lord? Referring to Rhysand. And they're like, well, he's probably running scared now that Tamlin's got his powers back. This is really the first time, or the only time, when she's like, then you do not know him very well.
You do not know Rhysand very well at all.
Ma'am.
Also have it highlighted. We always have the same things highlighted.
I know. For someone who's supposed to be very pro Spring Court and happily marrying the High Lord of the Spring Court, she certainly has the High Lord of the Night Court's back.
Well, I think it's like maybe the initiation, the establishing of like something that we saw last book, and we just are getting these little seeds that might grow, and you have to be able to pick up to it. Are you going to highlight it, or are you not going to recognize it?
Right. And this
you
is
and
why
I
we're doing the
highlighted
podcast.
it and recognized it.
For this 4 chapters, the 3 themes that I saw were like trauma, because we do see Tamlin's trauma. We even see a little bit of Lucian's trauma where he's like, I can't be the guy you knew because the world has changed. I can't go back to being the Lucian of the last 50 years. If everybody's looking to me, if I don't do what he says, then no one will. And obviously all of Feyre's. We've talked about power with like Lucien and Ianthe and Tamlin and Feyre and identity, right? But the other thing is, when she is getting married, on page 39, Ianthe had ordered silk gloves so that the tattoo on her arm would be hidden. Almost like she is hiding a part of herself. The thing that saved her under the mountain was that tattoo, but Ianthe's hiding it. These are such stark points of the last book, but also who Feyre is, that are being highlighted here in just such unique ways. Like,
well, specifically the silk gloves and the tattoo, page 36. Then you don't know Rhysand very well at all. Like, specifically to those tattoos that you were just referring to.
The last thing I want to talk about is comparing to last book. This book is broken up into 3 parts. We're currently in the House of Beasts. So we have Tamlin's beast form. We have the fact that Amarantha's beasts are still around. Can we think of like her own demons as beasts? I just think it's interesting that we do the House of Beast, the House of Wind, and the last one I think is House of Mist, where we're in Mist and Fury. I just want to pay attention to how much happens, you know, in the House of Beasts until we get to the House of Wind. Is that when Mor takes her out? What is that breaking point? And what do we learn about both of the courts? Because we know we're about to enter the Night Court.
We realize that so many people are considered beasts and end up with like, okay, you have a wingspan. Okay, you're an angel. Okay, you are a demon.
Mm-hmm.
Beasts are not always the bad guy. In fact, are often the one who are written as the heroes and heroines.
But also remember at Calebnai, Rhysand was like, all of the monsters are allowed to come out of their cages tonight. Monsters,
all of
beasts.
The monsters have been let out of their cages tonight.
I want to end with talking about the sex scene between Tamlin and Feyre. It is pages 20/21 through 24. This feels significant because there really wasn't graphic sex in A Court of Thorns and Roses. And this isn't explicit, but it is graphic. And it is one of the first, and perhaps this is one of the only times when Feyre is seen in these chapters. She is powerful. She's not fragile. This scene seems more important when you take it in the context of both of their identities and what they are doing. It's very physical, which you could also argue is very beastly, as opposed to loving. I don't know. I thought it was interesting. And it's also, she's being silenced at the same time that she is being seen.
I have on page 22, about 2/3-ish the way down, she says, this. I needed this. And the second word, this, is italicized. So it means something else. And on the side of my page, I said, sex as a distraction.
And it's grounding her. This moment is just the two of them. He's not the High Lord. She's not his consort or his fiance or whatever. Like, this is what she destroyed her soul for. She destroyed her soul for Prythian and for the love of her life. Like, this is just the two of them. This was the whole reason for it. I think that's all I got. What about you?
I went over all my points, so I think we covered it. The first 4 chapters of A Court in Mist and Fury. The first 4 chapters of season 2. Kat, we're doing it.
We're doing it. Next week, we'll be reading chapters 5 through 10. That's 6 chapters of A Court of Mist and Fury. Is there anything that we did not say that you guys were hoping we would talk about? Mention it, comment, like, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube or on Instagram. If you liked this episode, please follow us on SJMAASTERCLASS. And you can send us an email, sjmasterclass@gmail.com. Rev, do you want to meet in maybe 15 minutes, grab a margarita, and edit this episode?
Girl, I have never wanted margs so bad. Let's go. I'll see you in 15.
See you in 15. Bye.
Right.
Bye, guys.